Hello, everyone. Wow. All right. This is my first live stream of 2026. I think it's actually my first live stream ever where I'm by myself. So I think it's 2025, or maybe it was the end of 2024, where I hopped on a live here with a fellow relationship coach and we had a chat. But this year, I wanted to do more of these lives just like you and I. So if you're hopping on, if you're watching live, if you like this idea, please let me know either in the chats if you're hopping on live today or in the comments below once this gets just posted on my YouTube channel. So I am thinking of doing these lives once a week. I'm going to do my best. If life comes up, I might have to skip or reschedule. But for the moment, I'm thinking of doing these every Thursday, noon Eastern. So I realize we are Friday, 4 p.m. This might not be a great time for most people. I wanted to do Thursday at noon, but then life got in the way and I almost pushed it off. And I said, no, Mireille, you've got to do this. You've got to get started. And otherwise, you're just never going to get around to it, right? Part of the New Year's resolutions for 2026. So hopefully everything's working okay. I am just going to assume that there is sound that you can hear me. So I'll have to listen to the replay to see if it works. And I'm planning to stay on live for about, I don't know, let's say 20 to 30 minutes. I think that's as long as my camera will handle filming. If there's a glitch with the camera, I apologize ahead of time, but hoping this setup will work. I will check every now and then in the comments. So the point of this live is for us to be able to have connection, to talk, and for me to answer your questions. So this is going to be all about relationship real talk, whatever questions you have about challenges you're having in your relationship, whether it's communication, navigating arguments, rebuilding that emotional connection, getting the spark back. If you're dating, anything related to the relationship, to relationships and dating, love in general that you want to know about, you want my opinion, you want some guidance, I am here for you. I realize that I have a lot of subscribers too on my channel who are still here because in the past I was posting a lot of information and videos related to natural health and non-toxic living, and I still have a few videos I've left up on my channel that do really well and that people are subscribing because of those videos, and I'm super grateful. So hey, if you happen to be here and you have a question about health and some of the things that I do and that my husband and I do together to stay healthy, hey, throw those in. I really believe that, health, love, like relationships, it's all interconnected. It's all part of your overall wellness. So, hey, in my mind, it's all the same. It's all, if you're like me, you're just as passionate. I mean, not just as passionate. I'm obviously most passionate about my husband, but I do care a lot about health. He does too. And we've noticed the healthier we are, the better we show up for each other. And we want to be healthy and live long lives so we can be together for as long as possible. So that's how I see the connection. And speaking of connection, like I said, I want to come on here and really build that connection with you and also kind of see what are the things that you guys want to hear me talk about more. So if you want to drop like in the chat or in the comments after some topics that you would like me to cover that maybe I haven't covered before in the past, or if you want me to take like a different angle on it or clarify something, please let me know. I will use these lives as opportunities to get more ideas for my regular content. So drop that in. Anything goes. I will filter through and obviously work through those ideas as best that I can. And the other reason that connection is relevant to today's live. So obviously, I don't have any questions. I don't see anything in the chat right now. So I pre-thought of something to talk about today. And what I want to talk about is related to connection and especially AI. So not maybe a few days ago now, my husband sent me a podcast episode. So it was an episode from Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, and he was interviewing Dr. Anna Lemke. I don't know if I'm properly saying her last name, but it was on the topic of like AI and addiction. So if you don't know Dr. Anna Lemke, she wrote the book Dopamine Nation. So she's an expert. She's a psychiatrist. I think she's a professor at Stanford. Don't quote me on that. Please fact check it before you repeat or quote me on that. And she wrote this great book called Dopamine Nation that talks about addiction and just how like addictions are just flourishing nowadays just with our modern technology, and especially with all social media, the apps we have access to, AI especially. And it was super interesting because there was a section in that podcast where she talked about love and addiction and dating apps and how people more and more are using AI and um, social media to satisfy these needs for human connection. So, just to give you background, and I wrote some notes about the podcast here, what she was sharing, so that I could share with you and give you context. And I'll link to the podcast in the description if you're interested in listening to it. It's absolutely wonderful. But there was a whole section that talked about human connection, and she was sharing how one of our natural rewards as human beings that we look for is finding a mate, right? So there's natural, like eating is a natural reward. She went through a list of them. I don't remember all of them, but human connection or finding a mate is one of those natural rewards. And what happens is our brain has made it that way by making falling in love, making intimacy, and making human connection in general rewarding on a neurobiological level. Reading my notes because this is getting very scientific here. Big words. And so that includes like releasing dopamine when we're in love. It releases dopamine in our reward pathways. And she was also talking about how there was other research that was done that found that oxytocin, so that's our love hormone, whereas dopamine is our reward motivation type hormone, or oxytocin, our love hormone, binds to dopamine releasing neurons in our pathways and also releases dopamine. So dopamine, as you can see, is the theme here. And this is why love feels so good. And she was talking about the drugification of human connection that we're experiencing these days, right? Think of social media, like I was saying, all those dating apps, online porn, and now AI, ChatGPT, like people using these tools to create human connection and bonding with, you know, robots, especially. I shouldn't call it like robots, but you know what I mean, like computers, and how that creates a frictionless and extremely validating um, um, it's extremely validating for people, right? And that's how people get hooked for that, to those things. And how people are now, and obviously that's how these things are designed, right? So that you go back, you're validated, you know, you get told your perspective is correct. I see this all the time, even in my coaching practice. I'll share a few examples with you shortly about that. But that's how they're designed, these algorithms. They will tell you your point of view is correct. They'll bolster your self-esteem. And it creates this abundance of opportunity to get this reward from finding a mate. And obviously, it's not really finding a mate, so that's why I'm using these air quotes. Um, but it almost creates a drug out of it too, right? Because suddenly you can control these feelings of love and connection and attraction and excitement, right? You can decide when you're going to change the way you feel by using these so-called drugs, right? So if you're feeling bad, you might, or you're feeling lonely, you might open the dating app and you might go swipe, right? If you're in your relationship with your partner and things aren't going good, one of the dangers she was saying is that instead of actually talking to your partner, which is, one of the most important things in a relationship, in a solid relationship, is being able to communicate and talk to one another. Instead of doing that, they'll go talk to ChatGPT and find out what's going on, right? Like get an opinion from ChatGPT, or even what to do next, right? That's something I see that I'll talk about. So the concern, obviously, with that is that there's the access, there's the abundance, and you become more disconnected. And humans are all about connection. So think of it, AI and everything is just accelerating at this crazy rapid pace. And already we see these examples, right? Like in the news, online, where people are getting really involved with, some of these apps and AI in general, and really taking what it says at as face value. And it scares the crap out of me. Like, I don't know if any of you guys here, like, let me know in the comments if you have ever watched Black Mirror. Like, I feel like we're just getting closer and closer to living in a Black Mirror episode, which kind of freaks me out, right? So people are just going on there to get validation, to get companionship, and to feel understood instead of actually cultivating this with other real people, which is part of why I want to do these lives so that we can connect with real people. Sure, like there is a place for AI, for all these online tools, even for social media apps. Like, obviously, I use them all the time in my personal life, in my professional life. I do think there's a lot of good to it, but it's when it's taken too far and it disconnects us from the real world and from real other people, and especially the people we love, and especially if it prevents us from overcoming our challenges, right? And it helps us. It's like almost, one of my concerns is it just creates a whole bunch of avoidant attachment style human beings, right? So if you're familiar with attachment styles, there's anxious attachment, there's avoidant, there's anxious avoidant. Some go into detail, fearful avoidant, dismissive, like all the things. But this is almost going to be a tool to help enable people to just avoid things even more. Avoid coming face to face. Now, I understand some people might go there. Sometimes you can go in there just to get an idea of how to say things. I know, and there are a lot of people, a lot of women I talk to, and even just like friends in my surrounding, they'll literally go in ChatGPT to get like an answer. Okay, how do I answer this guy? Or even like, how do I respond to my husband? And to a certain extent, that can be okay. Like, I don't think that should replace getting actual support or hearing from a human being who, will be able to have more discernment than these programmed, tools online. They're fed information or just pulling information without necessarily discernment, which is where I see like the role of the human obviously still being there in terms of like supporting you and me being live here and helping you guys out with this. So people are just going to spend more and more time on AI. And like I said, it can create like a rift with your real partner, between the real partner and them, which is what she was sharing about. So, like I was saying, instead of talking to the partner, they're going to talk to AI and get AI to either meet their needs or validate them. And I see that also like problematic in the sense that one of the traps that women fall into that I see a lot of the time is they can use all this information. Like, it's great, having all this information at our fingertips. Like, I have a 15-year-old boy, and when he comes home with it, and he does his homework, I'm like, man, I remember, I'm dating myself here, but having to look through encyclopedias at the library and stuff. And now you can just like type and find anything. And now with things like tools like ChatGPT, it's like even more sophisticated. Like, it's getting easier and easier to find information. And I realized that, that's something I want to focus on this channel for you too in 2026, is not just giving you information, because you can get that. There is an abundance of that. And these tools just make it easier and easier. And even for those of you who are dating, like, I remember when, back in the day, I was in dating, like in the early days of this. It wasn't apps, it was like online websites and stuff. But I remember like I had to wait till like Friday when my friends and I would go to the bar, and then you didn't know how many people would be there and who you would see. Whereas now it's like, Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. in your pajamas, you can be swiping and like looking at potential suitors, right? Who knows? Abundance. It's crazy how much we have access to. So I lost my train of thought there. I kind of went down on a rabbit hole there, but pretty much what my point was, that I want to help you not only have more information, but kind of show you real life examples and give you the opportunity to talk to a human and ask questions to a human. Go ask ChatGPT, then come ask me here on my live videos, or put comments with your questions on my videos, and I will get to them. So, I wanted to share a few examples with you. I'm just looking at the chats here. I see there are no questions so far. So if that's the case, I'll probably stay on maybe just a few more minutes. I'll kind of wrap up this theme I had for today. I'm glad that I was able to figure out this setup. I saw that for a while there we were 3 people watching. No one commented that they couldn't hear me. So looks like this works. So I'm excited about that. But one example I love to share about kind of AI and relationships is related to my own relationship, where it was must have been maybe 2 years ago now at some point, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And my husband, he was just like playing around with Notebook LM, and he took, I think it was a month's worth of texts between him and I during the phase in our relationship. I always talk about the rough patch we went through years 4 to 6 of our relationship. So he took texts from that era and put them in Notebook LM and got it to do like a podcast episode. And literally during that podcast episode from Notebook LM, it diagnosed my anxious attachment style, which I thought was hilarious. So we both laughed at that, and it was true, right? It was interesting to see um, what it came up with. So, I'm saying that after having said that, these tools will probably just like validate you and confirm your point of view. Just obviously, just whatever it shares with you, take it with a grain of salt. But it was eye opening to kind of listen to myself having exchanges with my husband. And there were things in there that, oh, kind of gave me aha moments. And although by that point, by the time we did this Notebook LM thing, I had realized that I was being anxious attached at that point. But it was just interesting to hear it. So, hey, just a way that we used AI in our relationship, how I experienced it. And I know I was talking to a woman not that long ago, and she was going through a breakup, and she had been typing in ChatGPT just to kind of understand certain things that was happening in the relationship. But from what she shared, it was obvious, and I could tell that a lot of it was kind of validating her side. So I think that is the trap here, and the danger in using these tools without necessarily discernment or getting another perspective, is that it might just feed you what you want to hear. And that's another thing I see oftentimes is in this world of information, in this world of labels, in this world of diagnosing people and behaviors all the time, we can fall into the trap of just getting fixated on, okay, the man in my life is, a narcissist. He's avoidant. He's emotionally unavailable. And you'll punch in like this information and his behaviors in the tool, and, you're going to get fed with that information. Or even just like on social media. So the other example I wanted to share is I'm working with a woman, and she shared with me a Facebook post that she had found that I don't want to say the word resonated with her, but that stood out to her. And she started reading the comments, and you had all these comments kind of, there was a mix of both, but a lot of comments in there, confirming the idea, or, sharing that dating after a certain age gets harder, and men don't want older women, and you're screwed after a certain age. And that's again the danger of social media, when you just see that post, and depending on who's commenting, it can impact your perception, obviously, right? It can confirm your suspicions, or discourage you even more. And I don't mean to be like fake positive or anything, but at the end of the day, we've got to always look to see where we're getting the information from. And I always share that, and this is a philosophy I have in every aspect of my life, where I always follow the advice of people that have and do the things I want to do, or that I want to have. I will always take, health advice from someone who I admire their health and want their health. I will always take relationship advice from someone who has a relationship that I really aspire to have. And so that's why you kind of have to be careful in these comments, where it's just anyone sharing their opinion. Same thing with friends and family, right? They're going to say, sometimes they might say what you want to hear. Sometimes they might be extra harsh. Sometimes they might project things onto you that is really just their own stuff that they're dealing with. So just something to keep in mind when you're using these ChatGPT tools or AI tools, or you're looking kind of for advice on love and relationships on social media sites. And also being careful with apps, right? It can be extremely addicting, kind of just like you check your phone for anything else. You're going to be checking, if the guy that you swiped on is going to message you and everything. Dopamine, full of dopamine. And that can really kind of, well, it's going to impact the chemicals in your brain. And it's like it can easily hijack you if you're not mindful and careful about it. If you can set those boundaries with yourself in terms of how much you let yourself access those things and go for those things. Just set limits, set boundaries, just like anything else. So, I think those are the examples I wanted to share and kind of the perspective I wanted to put out there. And mainly, the purpose of this live was to kind of announce that I'll be doing these more often. I've come up with a few more questions just in case nothing comes in. And hopefully, hey, we had 3 people today at the top. I'm excited about that. I was just hoping someone would show up. So let's try to make that, who knows, like 5 next week. Let's see. So I will announce it again here on my channel so that you can click to be notified when I come live next week. And like I said, it will likely be Thursdays at noon Eastern. So that's what I'm thinking for these lives, and I'll try to do it regularly so you can plan it in your calendar and show up if you can, or otherwise you can come back and watch them later. Also, if you haven't yet downloaded my free relationship success checklist, I'll put a link down in the description for this live here, and that's going to give you it's 25 daily actions that you can take. And no, you don't have to take all 25 at the same time each day, but it gives you ideas of things you can do intentionally and mindfully and deliberately in your relationship every day so that you can avoid creating distance, so you can communicate better, so you don't have any resentment that builds up, and you can keep that spark going. So like I said, I'll put the link in the description. And if ever you want one-on-one support, if you're not comfortable sharing your questions here, or you decide that you want to make 2026 your year and get personalized support for your love life or your relationship or your dating, I will put the link to book a coaching call with me also in the description. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. I see we're back up to 3 people, but I'm going to hop off for today. Like I said, I'll probably make these lives around 20 to 30 minutes. I think my camera can handle that. And hey, if this goes well and more people are joining and putting comments, I will make these as long as I have to answer everyone's questions and make sure you guys get the support that you need in your relationship, so that you can have that fairy tale, whatever it was, whatever relationship it looked like when you were dreaming about it as a little girl. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.